All right, guys. So I've spent the past week or so playing the Unicorn Overlord demo. This was one of the highlights of the year for me. This was a game I was really looking forward to. It was like it topped the list for my most anticipated games of 2024. Like I was really enthusiastic about it, right? I was really wild about Unicorn Overlord when it was first shown off, and now that I've played it, I still really like it, right? But there's a lot of these qualms like going into this where I'm kind of just like, yeah, like I was expecting something groundbreaking, I was expecting something innovative, I was expecting something really, really dark, and I don't really get that out of this experience, right? I was expecting a really good, interesting, like alternative take on like Ogre Battle or Fire Emblem or like any of these other strategy RPGs, and we got basically something that's a composite of both, right? Like it is really appalling how similar Unicorn Overlord is to its primary inspirations, right? It plays like Ogre Battle, but it's structured like a Fire Emblem game. You are a blue-haired lord who has to travel back to his homeland to free it from the tyranny of the evil emperor who controls it, right? This is basically the plot of every Fire Emblem game ever, but it's structured more like an Ogre Battle game where you have to like take your unique units and put them into like positions and like have ultra like complex strategy to it. Like it's more like that, right? And I love Ogre Battle. I've never finished one, but like I've played these games quite a bit, and I think they're really really underrated in the Nintendo space. Like I love Ogre Battle 64 and March of the Black Queen, right? I've had nothing but praise for those games. But I think one of the things that like really stuck out to me about them, about Ogre Battle 64 specifically, is that they do an incredible job at like building this really dark, like grim setting, right? Like you're doing these things for a reason. You're going on this adventure for a reason, right? You have goals, right? You have like, ambition, like you're doing everything you're supposed to do, but sometimes things just don't work out for you, right? Sometimes the bad guys have good points, Sometimes things like sometimes like you could be the bad guy in the situations, right? Like Ogre Battle 64 and I think like Final Fantasy Tactics, they did a really good job like building real like morality issues in the context of the story, right? It's not just a black and white thing. And I would argue that Ogre Battle, more than any other franchise in the genre, really does a good job in creating morally gray situations. And that was what I was hoping for with Unicorn Overlord. I was hoping for something like 13 Sentinels with this really deep, involving, like complex plot with like dozens of characters, right? Like I was expecting something like that, but what I got was nowhere near the quality I was expecting, right? The game feels generic. It feels uninspired. It feels like we're just doing the same thing Fire Emblem does. Like I was appalled at how similar it was to Fire Emblem, right? I was appalled at like the lack of creativity. I was like kind of let down by the lack of personality of the characters and like the lack of things you do in the overworld and like things like that. Like I was very disappointed. And like I don't even think the game is as good as Ogre Battle, right? Like when I think about how much time I put into like Ogre Battle 3 specifically, like I was playing it quite a bit like last year or the year before that. When I think back on it, like I put a lot of time into that game, and I think they did a really good job like keeping you invested and keeping you playing. And like I don't know if I would say Unicorn Overlord is better than that. However, where Unicorn Overlord shines, and I think this is like the main thing, I do think the art style is gorgeous and the game is genuinely fun, right? Like I think the game has a lot of complex uh has a lot of complexity to it. I think there's a lot of variety in the units and the things they can do. I think there's a lot of things you can do with the team building. I think there's a lot of experimentation you can do. Like from a pure gameplay perspective, this is pretty solid. Now, I don't think it's as good as Fire Emblem Engage, not by a long shot, right? Which is again like kind of a big problem with it. Like this game falls short from its competition in a lot of ways, but at the same time, like I really, really enjoy it. Like I like exploring the overworld and discovering new towns, right? I like the way the game is structured where like you liberate communities and you get access to more and more forts and units and resources and you have to like go all over the map like delivering goods to like restore towns to like make them prosper and stuff like that. Like it more than any other game in like the genre, I think. This game really feels like you are trying to do good for like the people around you, right? Like, and again, I think that's really cool to do, right? Like I was disappointed initially by its like lack of morally situations, but like at the same time, like I feel like the protagonist does a lot more for the people of the setting. You know, instead of just beating the bad guys and then leaving, like real issues are brought up. You know, like there's a guy like on the enemy side who's like stocking food for like a famine he believes is coming, right? Like that's not like super great characterization. It's not well written, it's not interesting, it's kind of cringy because like every other line he has is like, oh, I gotta fill my larder, oh, we gotta feast on the blood of our enemies. Like he keeps saying things like that. It's so cringy, it's so like it's very anime-esque, like very stereotypically. And then like when you actually beat him, like he kind of does this thing where he like, oh, I was doing this because I was worried the people would starve if we didn't stockpile enough food, right? So like it's not super great characterization, but at the same time, like it humanizes your enemy, right? It kind of gives you context as to like what other people are doing and like how not everybody on the other side is like completely evil and stuff like that. And you're the protagonist, like even if you're trying to do good, are you know kind of getting in the way of other people trying to do good in their own way, right? And again, it's not like super deep characterization, right? It's not well written, it's not well executed. Like it's kind of lazy in a way because they could have done a lot more with these characters. They could have had like these multiple like arcs, like all these stages, like seeing all this character development. Like how cool would it be if you could like find characters' hometowns and interact with their families and stuff like that? Uh, like again, like the game just falls short of like what I really wanted to see from it was like this really hardcore, extremely extremely in-depth strategy RPG. But for what it is, like I am really, really, really enjoying it. Like I don't think it's gonna be my game of the year. Like I think right now I'm leaning towards Penny's Big Breakaway. But like when I'm every time I play it, like every time I like play the demo, I haven't quite finished it yet. Every time I play the demo, every time I see a new character, every time I like um you know like try adjusting my unit builds, like I discover that more and more that I am having a lot of fun. And I think that matters more than anything when it comes to a brand new video game IP like this one.